Thanks, Jane. A new report shows a number of inmates eligible for parole have died in prison instead, in part because they have nowhere else to go. It's people eligible for either medical or geriatric parole. The first is for terminally ill inmates. It allows for release, usually to hospice care or a nursing home. Geriatric parole is similar. It's for offenders over 75 who have served for more than 15 years. Now, there are some exceptions in all of this, including inmates on death row and those serving life sentences. Nebraska's Inspector General of Corrections found several cases where inmates were eligible for these types of parole, but died behind bars because the state couldn't find anywhere for them to go.
Now, here's an example from the state report. In the fall of 2024, authorities say a man serving time was diagnosed with cancer. Staff found that he was likely eligible for medical parole. He was interested in going to Norfolk for family support, and a social worker contacted dozens of care facilities, but none of them would take him. The reasons cited were not having enough beds, a gap in staff, training, or just because of his criminal history. The parole board pushed back his hearing because there wasn't a place for him outside of prison, and then he died at the corrections center in February of 2025.
So how can we prevent cases like this one? The Inspector General has a few suggestions. One, for the legislature to reduce the barriers for housing inmates after release. They also recommend better tracking of medical and geriatric parole outcomes for a better picture of what really happens after inmates are granted parole.